Con Martin is a 20-year veteran of the ad agency industry, over half of which has been spent leading new business efforts, with a penchant for stiff drinks, which I certainly can appreciate, good debates, and digital gadgets. Tom helps agencies create innovative and effective digital marketing strategies and shows them how to painlessly prospect their way to more clients. If interested, Tom can be reached via his site, which is conversedigital.com. That's CONVERSE digital.com. And Tom, thanks so much again for the time today. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you've got a book that is just about to be released. If you want to put in a quick plug for that before we get started.
Yeah, the book is The Invisible Sale. It's going to be released in the first part of October. I think it's pretty appropriate for agencies looking to do new business because it's my business development philosophy encapsulated into a book. And obviously, as a former director of business development, owner of an agency, that philosophy is built off of 20 years of pitching and winning new business in the agency world.
That's great. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I know you're speaking at Bolo in Phoenix and then also up in Minneapolis. Was it the Mimi conference?
Yeah, I'll be Monday. I'll be at the Bolo, and then we'll go straight from there to Mima.
That's
right. Then we take a few days off, and then we start a 10-day book tour.
That's great.
Really throughout the whole central and east coast and southern United States. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a busy October.
That's great. Well, I wish you the best of luck. So wanted to just get some input and perspective from you on the responses that we got to some of the questions that you provided for our Thought Leader survey. There were close to about 50% of the agencies that responded that said they aren't using an inbound marketing program to support their new business efforts currently. Can you provide me with some perspective as to why you think that is? What's preventing other agencies from using inbound to support their new business efforts?
I really think it's a function of how the business development function in an agency comes about. If you think about it, in the early days of an agency, biz dev is usually handled by the owner. Maybe at some point they bring in a business development person, but far too often I find at least that where they look for that person is in the sort of radio, television, magazine, ad sales space.
Sure.
Because they say, oh, this person's a salesperson, I'm not a salesperson. And they have a good Rolodex because obviously those folks are calling on clients as well as agencies. And so that person comes from a very outbound methodology. If you don't really know a lot about conceptual selling and more complex selling techniques, you tend to default to an outbound cold call, clutterbuster, or God forbid, RFP-based process because that's just what we grew up with. I mean, let's face it, it's an incestuous business. We all come up through the ranks, and that's where we learn how to do it. And because we don't really know where to look, we don't really discover new ways and new ideas. And I think that's a lot of it. They're just agencies, if you look at who's responsible, those people aren't looking into the complex sales. They're not looking at the IBMs of the world to learn how to sell.
Sure.
They're looking at other agencies or they're following age-old cold call-based concepts.
Yep.
I think also part of it, too, is as much as agencies, as much as we bitch about the RFP process, deep down we're sort of like addicted to it like a bad drug.
Sure.
Sure. we like the thrill of the hunt. We like the stress that goes with it to some extent.
Yeah.
At least that's my opinion because I just don't see enough agencies trying to opt out of that age-old process.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you hear a lot of agencies talking about just the pains and the ills of the process, but it's there and it's going to continue to be there. Hopefully, it'll just improve. I saw the 4A's and A&A just came out with a sort of a new set of guidelines trying to convince marketers and search firms that they need to do a better job of preparing agencies going into RFPs and pitches because apparently they're not giving them enough intel and information to make it a productive process. So hopefully we'll see some improvements. What do you think the biggest, you mentioned a number of things. Is there one single biggest roadblock to success with inbound? Is there one thing that agencies either aren't doing or aren't doing well enough that prevents them from being successful among those that are using inbound marketing?
I think it comes down to a historical belief in the world of the agencies to try to keep your knowledge protected inside your four walls.
Okay.
And don't really give away your knowledge until you're being paid for it, other than, you know, an RFP process, obviously, where, especially with spec creative and such. But I think that agencies just inherently are not of the mindset that there is value to giving away their quote unquote, you know, secret sauce. Even though, you know, as you know this, because you sit on the other side of the table during pitches a lot, the secret sauce really isn't all that different one agency to another,
sure,
right? It's mayo with Worcestershire sauce in it. That's it. Everybody's got the same basic sauce.
Yeah.
And so I think that really, that mindset limits them. If you look at agency blogs, which is really a core area of inbound marketing technique, you just don't really see good information.
Yeah.
By and large, not everybody. I'm painting with a broad brush, but you don't see people really giving away helpful nuggets that are going to educate a prospective client, and enable that client to make some decisions without necessarily having to hire the agency.
Yeah. Okay. So many of those that are blogging really aren't offering up of any value to prospective clients, is what you're saying, to make it make them want to make the connection with them.
Yeah, they're talking about themselves. They're talking about, look at this campaign we did, look at this, look at that. You know, they're not out there saying, here's a marketing pain point that we know our core prospects suffer from. Yeah. And here's a simple one step into the solution process. Yeah. And I think they also, you know, I think the other thing is that agencies tend not to understand the complexity of an inbound sale process. Okay. And they don't structure their websites for that at all. Okay. I've yet to find a lot of good examples of funnel optimized websites in the agency world. We're still putting out basically digital portfolios.
Yeah. Just internally, in terms of process within an agency or structure of the agency, or do you feel like agencies that aren't as successful just haven't thought through how they're going to not just manage the technology and the workflows, but, you know, what happens post that inbound lead? Do you feel like they have that could potentially be a limiter as well, just not having the right structure set up for follow-up and things along those lines?
Yeah, and I think your research, I think, kind of echoed that.
Yeah, right.
With I can't remember the exact percentage, but the lion's share of people were calling an inbound lead. That was their first action back to the lead, was to call. Right. Yeah, to me, completely inappropriate. First step. And I think the problem is that, you know, the way I explained it is this inbound or painless prospecting, as we call it, is really a lot like fly fishing. Okay. You know, the goal is to find the right bait, which is your content, be it curated or created, and you can see the prospect. You know where they are. You're dropping that bait in the water, and you're trying to figure out how to serve it up just right to get them to bite. Right. But then you've got to be really careful reeling them in. You don't just yank them as fast as you can. You got to work them a little. Sure. And that's the part people, I don't think, at least in the agency, we're not doing a good enough job of. We're not nurturing those leads. Okay. We're trying to immediately close that lead, because that's sort of our mindset with biz dev, and that's a function of the RFP world, because you get an RFP and you're done 6 weeks later. You got the one or you haven't. But that nurturing, that ongoing touch, and using that nurturing process to tease out the buying signals, really help you understand, what is this person's pain points, what do they need, what do they want, and how can I help them? Once you understand that, that's the appropriate time to make a phone call. Okay. Because now you got something to talk about versus, hey, we saw you downloaded our seven steps to a better retail strategy, white paper. Yeah. Okay. So it really is more than just the one-off blog or that initial download. You've got to have a stream of content that you can push out to these folks. If you capture a lead at point A, you've then got to plan the content that you're going to serve up to that individual over 6, 8, 9 months, whatever. Right. And you've got to plan it so that what you're trying to do is expose them to content that if they click on it and read it, then you know, okay, I got a data point now. Right. I've got people in my workflow that, I can see the pattern. Anytime I write anything about B2B lead prospecting with digital, they read it. Well, hello, that's probably their pain point.
Right. Okay.
So that's what I'm going to talk to them about. I'm not going to call them and talk to them about content marketing or content creation.
Sure.
I can, but that doesn't seem to be their pain point. That's what agencies need to do. To me, it's a very strategic, elegant sales process.
Yeah.
That it's just not a brute force kind of sales process.
Okay.
And I think definitely if agencies have somebody who can really sit down and plan that,
okay,
great. If they can't, it would behoove them to spend some money to go find somebody who can plan that for them.
Yeah.
Or teach them, better yet, even teach them how to plan it.
Right.
Because that really is the heart and soul of building a painless prospecting platform,
Okay.
of getting that inbound lead,
yeah,
who you're pretty sure wants to talk to you, versus, the age-old sort of, I'm going to keep emailing and direct mailing and clutterbustering you until you finally go into a review, and then I'll get invited to your pitch.
Sure. Yeah, because we saw in the survey responses, there certainly weren't a high number of agencies that moved to proposal post inbound leads. So I suspect that might have to do something with the fact that so many of them are picking up the phone and calling as soon as they get somebody clicking on anything.
Yeah, I think that's another piece, and that's not just in the agency world. You see this everywhere. At what point is a prospect really a lead?
Okay.
And, when somebody downloads something, I think far too often in an inbound mindset, we say, oh, that's a lead. That's not a lead. It's just somebody who was interested in a piece of information.
Right.
They're a prospect. They're now a visible prospect, which, is great because so often now, really, over 50% of the buying process is invisible to us because everyone's doing their research online.
Sure.
And until you get them to download something so you can see who they are and what they're interested in, everything they're doing is invisible to you. But that's the goal, really. That first touch, the goal isn't to close the business. It's to identify the prospect.
Sure.
Then you nurture that prospect until at which point their activity and behavior would seem to indicate they are, in fact, a lead.
Okay.
At that point, then, move to more outbound efforts, call,
Right.
hey, I'm going to be in your city.
Sure.
Notice you read a lot of our stuff on our blog, would love to sit down and just have coffee.
Right.
I think that's a much better, easier way of doing it.
Yeah.
Far less expensive
Sure.
than what agencies, traditionally have done, in my 20 years of doing biz dev.
Yeah. Outside of posting blogs, are there other tools that you'd recommend an agency consider to build into inbound program to make it more successful?
Yeah, I would. Big fan of guest posting on relevant blogs, industry blogs, trade association blogs, and because I believe in the philosophy of propinquity, which is a scientific social science theory that says basically the more often you bump into somebody, the more likely you get to know them. The more you know them, you get to like them. The more you like them, the more you want to do business with them. So and if you will guest post in lots of places, put your great content on someone else's blog or someone else's platform, you increase the odds exponentially that people will bump into your agency's content. And that's that first step that they can then flow through from that guest content to your core content, and you start to, again, work them down that funnel.
Okay, that's great. Do you feel like agencies need to buy into formal programs like the Marketos of the world in order to create effective inbound programs, or is it something that they can do on their own without the support of those programs? What's your perspective on that?
I think there are lots of tools out there that you can use to get your move than HubSpot, Marketo most certainly. If you can afford it, I think it's great.
Right.
Because what that allows you to do is simplify this process of creating a dossier of somebody who comes to your content. And you can start, you can pull up in HubSpot, in Marketo, same thing. You can pull up a screen. It'll show me everything Mark Sneider's clicked on my website since he first identified himself.
Yep.
That's a fabulous tool to figure out a individual prospecting strategy for that person. However, there are ways to do that. There are some cheaper tools that you can use. Certainly, if you can get people to subscribe to an agency's blog via email, you get a lot of that same information. Did they open your email? Did they read? And same thing, you can kind of pull it in, a little more manual, but you can pull it into a portfolio or a dossier. And it's a lot cheaper, frankly, than a HubSpot or a Marketo.
Sure. Okay. Any other perspective or advice you would give agencies, looking to either trying to improve the chances of success in new business, or if they're just kind of deciding for the first time because networking and referrals are running a little bit thin these days, that feel like they've got to jump into the process? Any advice you'd offer them up, to get things moving in the right direction?
You mean besides buy my new book?
Besides buying your new book, absolutely, yes.
Always be selling. I would say this. I would say if you aren't doing some sort of content inbound marketing, you're not doing something to be known for knowledge, because that's increasingly what clients are willing to buy is knowledge.
Right.
I mean, we all see the stories about how they're moving the executional aspect in-house. But what all those stories tell you is that they still value the knowledge and creativity and innovation aspect of an agency. And they don't necessarily think that can move in-house. So if you're not doing something to be known for that online, if you're not making it easy for clients to find your intelligence online and get to know you without you even knowing who they are, I think it's a huge mistake. If you can just commit to one blog post a week, which every agency should be able to do, just one good, high-quality blog post a week that shares knowledge that clients want, I think that absolutely you should start doing that. And if you haven't started seeing some sort of level of activity in 6 to 9 months, then you may not be doing it right. But overall, if you'll put in a decent inbound program, within 6 to 9 months, you ought to start seeing the results of that program in the form of inbound leads, invitations to speak at conferences, subscriptions to your blog or newsletters that you can then use to get buying signals out of prospects, etc. So do that, commit to it, give yourself at least a year. Don't do it and in 3 or 4 months stop doing it because you get busy. Really make a commitment, plan that out. I think it's the single most cost-effective thing any agency can do today to ensure the growth of their agency tomorrow.
That's great. Okay, and somebody that picks up a copy of your book and gives it a good read, what 1 or 2 nuggets, maybe without revealing your secret sauce to too great a degree, are they going to walk away with? What are they going to? How are they going to become a better agency by giving your new book a read through?
I think the two most powerful things for agencies. Number one is how to develop a set of propinquity points, how to use technology to identify where are your best prospects hanging out online, so you can figure out where to put those guest posts, where to hang out online, etc. And the second thing is what we call the cobblestone and cornerstone, which is our process, our model for content creation and dissemination.
Okay.
And it shows you step by step how to take one big piece of content, a white paper or something, how you systematically can break that down, or how you can take a presentation, something agencies give all the time, how you can turn a single presentation into 8, 10 different pieces of content that can be spread around the internet. That's invaluable because it really shows you how to create an efficient content creation system. And I mean, I use it, it's the system I use, and it enables me to publish a lot of content. And I'm a pretty small, virtual consultancy versus, an agency that has writers and art directors and everything on board. So I think those are the 2 most important learnings that they'll get out of the book.
That's great. Yeah, good pieces of advice. I mean, definitely agencies have a tendency to kind of look at things pretty singularly in terms of how do they go to market on behalf of their own agency. And so it sounds like those 2 areas of content that you're providing in your book, I think, could be of great value to any agency reading it. So, Tom, really appreciate the time that you've offered us here today. Appreciate the contributions that you made to the Thought Leader Survey. I thought we not only gathered some great insights from agencies in the survey, but also the insights that you've provided today, I think, can be of big help to agencies listening to today's interviews. So, wish you the best of luck moving forward, and safe travels. We'll see you in Phoenix at Bolo, and wish you safe travels up to Minneapolis at that conference as well. So.
Thanks for having me. Always flattered that y'all ask for anything that I think, and we will definitely continue the conversation over cocktails at Bolo.
There you go. All right. Well, listen. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man.
All
Take
right.
care.
Yep. Take care. See you now.